All right, Tom, it's all you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. It's good to see you again. And good evening, everyone. My name is Tom McKenzie. Like Sarah said, I'm the Assistant Director of Admission for Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine in Cleveland, Ohio. So we're not too far away from Baltimore, only about an hour or so flight. And we're also about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hour drive. Oh, looks like my computer might be frozen here. Stand by. Oh, there we go. Can everybody see that screen okay? Looks like I kind of froze up there. Sorry about that.
Yes. Oh,
Sorry about that. Here, we'll go ahead and dive back in here. Sorry. There we go. All right, hold on here. I'm having some logistical challenges here. Please forgive me. Stand by, everybody. Sorry. All right, let's share our screen and try it. Hopefully third time's a charm. There we go. Okay. So what we'll do is I'm going to talk about Case Western. All right. I'll give everyone some tips, tricks, recommendations of applying to med school. I'll give everyone a chance to ask some questions, and then you all can be on your way. All right. And probably take about, I don't know, maybe 35, 40, 45 minutes at the most. And like I said, I'll give time at the end for questions. All right. So to kind of start off and talk about Case Western and talk about Cleveland, we actually opened a brand new building at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine about 3 years ago. So in May of 2019, we moved into a brand new state-of-the-future health education campus called the Samson Pavilion. It is huge, almost 500,000 square feet. And we're in the same building as the nursing, dental, and the PA program. It's been a game changer. We have carved out time every Wednesday from 3 to 5 o'clock with the health professions, where you'll have case-based learning and a lecture-based teachings where you kind of just learn all the different members of the healthcare team. Medicine's a team sport. I always say that we're a lot stronger when we learn from each other, do things together, and collaborate with one another. I think you'll really find that students are collaborating a lot more with the other health professions being in this facility. It's been really a lot of fun. We don't have like certain wings of the residence or the building that are designed for like, you know, this dental students only, nursing students only, medical students only. We're all intermingled together and are learning from each other. I know medical students and dental students that are living together now. It's been a lot of fun. So I want to kind of jump in and talk about AMCAS briefly, and then I'll dive into more about Case Western. When you fill out AMCAS, remember AMCAS opens, I think, the first week in May, and then roughly at the end of May, you can submit AMCAS. You apply to 1 year in advance when you fill out the allopathic medical school application. And they'll calculate a GPA for you. A lot of students ask, will my GPA on AMCAS be the same as on my transcript? It'll probably look very similar. There's 3 occurrences where it might look a little bit different. The first occurrence is if you took college level courses while a high school student. If you took college level courses while a high school student, that is going to factor into your AMCAS GPA. Secondly, if you transferred schools, if you attended an institution outside of Johns Hopkins to receive some of your undergrad coursework, that's also going to count towards your GPA. And also no grade replacement. AMCAS will count your first and your second grade attempt, or even your third grade attempt. So if you took a course multiple times, all those attempts are going to be counted. But outside of that, your GPA will look very similar. AMCAS calculates a GPA based on all the undergraduate coursework you've received. So if you transferred schools, college level courses while a high school student, and also if you took a course perhaps multiple times. AMCAS does not do any kind of grade replacement. Post-bac programs and master's programs. I know there's, I think, quite a few students here that have taken a post-bac or a master's program or are currently enrolled in one. That's great. I will tell you that we recommend post-bac or master's programs if students are looking for maybe some kind of academic redemption. This is more for career changers and also to fulfill basic prerequisite courses. I wouldn't recommend a post-bac coursework for most students, perhaps. I mean, if you have I think the national average for all students that matriculate to med school is a 3.71 or something along those lines. We have about a 3.8 GPA average at Case Western. I don't think I wouldn't really recommend a post-bac or a master's. I think if you take a gap year, your time is better spent obtaining a range of patient-based experiences or something even outside of medicine. The only way I'd maybe pursue a post-bac or a master's is if you need to fulfill basic prerequisite courses, you're changing your career, which is just fine, or you find out a little bit later that you want to go into med school after you're nearly graduated college, perhaps. Or if you are looking for academic enhancement. I think if your GPA is below a 3.4, or 3.5 even. Below that, I would probably recommend you consider a post-bac or a master's. I think the national average for all students that matriculated to allopathic med school is a 3.7. So this is what we see of the BCMP, biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and AO is all others, and then the total GPA is there as well. So you can see that's exactly what we see in AMCAS. A post-bac program is great because AMCAS calculates your GPA based upon your undergrad and your post-bac together. So we'll combine the post-bac with your undergrad, and then you have a brand new GPA, so to speak, or perhaps an updated GPA based upon your most recent coursework. Master's program, you apply to medical school with a graduate GPA and an undergraduate GPA. So you essentially apply to med school with 2 GPAs. The graduate degree will hold a lot more weight because that's the most recent. We value a strong upward grade trend. Med schools value a strong upward grade trend. It's sort of a brutal business. What have you done for me lately? That kind of thing. So, but again, strong upward grade trend is big, whether it's in a post-bac, end of undergrad, etc. A lot of students will ask too, what's more important, the GPA or the MCAT? They're both very important. They serve a pretty equal importance. And I wouldn't say one is more important than the other. I'll have students ask, if I have a low GPA, could my MCAT save me, or vice versa? It could, depends on your GPA, depends on your MCAT score. I'll also maybe share that if you have a low GPA, I'll get that question, will an extracurricular activity save me? It could, it depends on your extracurriculars, and it also maybe depends on your GPA too. Students could get credit for a more rigorous major. I get that question a lot. Yeah, you could, maybe not as much as you like. I mean, a college major is one piece of a large application, but absolutely, you could certainly receive a little bit of bonus points, I think, for a more rigorous major like a biochemistry or, something along those lines. But I'm going to tell you, it's one piece to a large application. So that alone is not going to get you an interview to med school. I will also share that probably about 60 to 70% of an admissions decision is going to be GPA and MCAT. So yes, it is holistic review, but it is also a numbers game as well. Got to be academically qualified in the sciences. So that's big. There is a level of, I think, reality, so to speak, that you got to be academically prepared to handle the academic rigor of medical school. So the other, I would say 30 to 40% of the application is going to be your experiences. What have you done outside the classroom? So what do you do to enhance that piece of the application? And we want to share your story. You have your personal statement. That's the AMCAS essay, the same essay you're going to send to all the allopathic med schools you apply to. And then you're also going to have your list of experiences. So that's the what. So a good rule of thumb to think about is the experiences is the what, and the personal statement is the why. Why medicine? So when you're sharing your story, you want to kind of think about how you're going to approach your personal statement, because you're telling your story. Don't want to reiterate all your experiences in your personal statement. You want to talk about why you want to go into medicine and why now at this point in your life and career. The personal statement is kind of one of the few pieces of the application you have control over. It's not based upon like your MCAT or GPA or any kind of perceptions. It's your place to make a case for your candidacy to med school. It's one piece of a large application. A lot of students say, what should I write about? What's a good eye-catching essay? Don't overthink the personal statement. It's one piece to a large application. It's important, yes. Have good grammar, have good punctuation. Get a few people that you know to proofread your personal statement that know you well professionally and or personally, but don't spend so much time on your personal statement where it takes away other components of your application that you could be working on. I will tell you, please, take your personal statement seriously, yes, but don't overthink it at the same time. Find a good balance. So that's the why piece of your application, okay? So then you have the what piece of your application. What have you done? So I'm going to start out by sharing this. I made a little list of all the kind of non-medical related experiences that students have participated in the past year, okay? So our entering class of 2022, I made up this list of sort of mostly non-medical related things. And I think it's really important to have a life outside of your career. And I also think many of these things are solid transferable skills. Like, okay, yes, the top thing any med school is looking for is commitment to medicine. Do you know what you're getting yourself into when you apply to med school? And medical related experiences, shadowing, patient care exposure is the best way to show that. But the next greatest thing and most important thing we're looking for, I will say, is like empathy. Can you see things from another person's perspective, and teamwork, and sort of well-roundedness. So like this year we had a fitness instructor, a coffee brewer, a gymnastics coach, a missionary, a culinary specialist in the South Korean Army. That was a new one. We had an Arabic teacher. We had an outdoor orientation leader. So like, put this stuff on your application. Like if you sing, if you dance, if you play an instrument. Like my wife is an elementary school music teacher, and she loves the arts, very passionate about the arts. I have to love the arts in my household, or I'm gonna get the boot. So I know how much time the arts take just from my own personal experience. But if you do play an instrument and you sing, you dance, like we will put this stuff on your application, your hobbies, your interests. We want to know about you. And like varsity athletes, like you can see varsity soccer goalkeeper on the left-hand side toward the middle there. Like I know how much time varsity athletics take. And like that's teamwork. That's working with others. That's transferable skill. You're gonna be working on a team a lot in med school. So medical school is also a lot of teaching, like Arabic teacher. Arabic is not an easy language to learn. Sometimes no language is. So to kind of have a setting where you're teaching something that's challenging to learn, that's also solid transferable skills. You learn what to look for in individuals. You know how to read a room and handle a conversation appropriately and be mindful of language, depending on who you're speaking with, perhaps, things of that nature. So this is all, put this stuff on your application, because we also I want to have a life outside of your career. That's how you help avoid burnout, I think, oftentimes, but also want to get to know you. You're interviewing for med school. Like a med school interview is not the kind of setting where you're going to get quizzed on all these science terms. You got to prove yourself. Like, oh, tell me about, this particular patient care experience and the research findings. It's not anything like that. It's going to be more of like, we want to get to know you, what you've done, why medicine, and why now. We'll teach you everything once you get to med school. All right. So keep that stuff in mind. I also like to say, like, arts are big, varsity athletes are big. We love like AmeriCorps, Peace Corps. We've had a lot of students do a lot of really cool things that are outside of medicine. And we actually have this really cool musical extravaganza coming up soon in a few weeks called Doc Opera. It's a parody show. It's a huge philanthropic event, and we raise over $25,000 every year for the free clinic. And we have it's a parody show. So you have this year, Wizard of Oz, Indiana Bones, Back to the Suture. You get the gist. But students take songs and know the words to, and they change the lyrics to mimic a disease or a faculty member. It is a lot of fun. And there's a faculty dance too, so I have to dance. I'm pretty terrible, but it's funny. So we see sometimes oh, there's a band in the Doc Opera. They write all their own musical arrangements, and there's the band is incredible. Sometimes we'll see certain instruments students play. Oh, wow, Doc Opera, so it's everyone's got their little niche and what they can bring to this huge school of medicine event that takes a lot of teamwork and camaraderie. So again, all solid transferable skills to the field of medicine. Okay, so what do you really need? All right, so that's a little bit about the well-rounded piece, but again, the number one thing that any med school is looking for is commitment to medicine. Do you know what you're getting yourself into when you apply to med school? So shadowing is big. Any hospital volunteer work is big. What do you get yourself into, and are you ready for the demands and the challenges? I would say patient care exposure is big. Do you have experience caring for a patient yourself, or do you have exposure to patient care? So I've seen in-home caregivers apply to med school. I've seen EMTs apply to med school, nursing home volunteers. So all these things are huge. Research is also a great way to show commitment to medicine as well. We don't require research to apply to case, but research can also really, I would say, show commitment to medicine too. In your experiences section, you can list up to 15 different experiences. Don't fill out all 15 just to fill out all 15 for the sake of it. Quality, way more important than quantity, okay? The first 3 of the 15 experiences you list are your most meaningful experiences. They're earmarked as your most meaningful experiences. I'd recommend at least one of those first 3 that you list be a medical related experience. Each experience, you have a little bit of a description text box that you can describe each one in, and you get a little bit more in the first 3 because they're earmarked as the most meaningful. So at least one of those, make sure they're a medical related experience as well. You are applying to med school, so keep that in mind too, okay? I've had a lot of questions over the past year or two about the future of medical school admissions and interviewing. We had the pandemic. Maybe getting over the pandemic, I guess, is a better way to phrase that. In 2020 and 2021, medical related experiences were very hard to come by. And it's safe to say that I, as a medical school admissions professional, have to be very forgiving. med schools have to be forgiving. And as we look to the future, we have to understand that students might not have as many patient care experiences as years past for a while. Could be this way for the next several years. And in addition to that, virtual experiences. If you had a virtual experience, put it on your application, please. Virtual scribing. That's going to hold an equal weight to an in-person experience, especially if it took place in 2021, 2022, this year, perhaps even in 2020. I mean, it will. I also like to say, like, get used to, seeing admissions professionals interviewing on Zoom. I don't think these Zoom days are going away. I think there's a lot of benefits to interviewing virtually. I would practice interviewing virtually, good internet, practice with your friends, family, parent, guardian, whatever. I will tell you, it's going to go a long way, I think, toward helping you. Make sure you have good internet, like background, all that. I mean, make sure you're doing all that, because that's going to be big. I think you're still going to have med schools that interview in person. I think it's going to be much more the exception than the norm. So I think you might still see it, but it's going to be more the exception than the norm. We also have an optional essay at CASE. In our secondary application, many schools have an optional COVID-19 essay. The essay just simply reads, please tell us how the pandemic impacted you. Please share how the pandemic impacted you. If you also had an experience in 2020 or 2021 that was halted, canceled, interrupted, please share all of that with us. We want to know everything. That is going to help us evaluate you and evaluate your candidacy accordingly, and you can share how the pandemic impacted you. Okay, gap years. I always like to say, take a gap year, and non-traditional is the new traditional when applying to med school. I always like to say that because I about 75%, over 75%, that's over 3 out of every 4 students are taking gap years at CASE, meaning they have at least 1 year between college graduation and matriculation to med school. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a gap year, think about how much self-growth happens in a year. And you don't even have to do something medically related on a gap year. You can do something more like non-medically related. If you did Teach for America or AmeriCorps, or just worked at any kind of customer service type role, that's our level of reality. All got to make a little bit of money too before we go to med school. It's a big investment financially. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of self-growth happens in a year, and I'd almost compare it to a job interview. If I'm interviewing for a job and I'm interviewing for a position, and there's someone else interviewing for the position that has 1 year or 2 years or more years of experience than me, it could just be a little bit tougher to receive that job, or in this case, a spot in med school. Doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means it might be a little tougher. So I would really keep that in mind as you move forward. Okay, so I always like to say, as I close with the gap year slide, you also know yourselves better than anybody. If you're ready to apply to med school, apply. There's not a right or wrong answer with that. So please keep that in mind as well. But also, when in doubt, sometimes I always recommend consider taking a gap year. Okay, Cleveland, Ohio. Case Western. I always like to find the pictures with the best sunsets, and I'll put the Cleveland sunsets up with anywhere. All right. We're on the tropical shores of Lake Erie, kind of, at least for a few months out of the year. And Cleveland, I think, has a lot of similarities to Baltimore. It's a big healthcare hub. I will tell you, a lot of students. Cleveland's a great place to live, grow, develop as a professional, especially in the field of healthcare, much like Baltimore. Cleveland is located in Northeast Ohio on Lake Erie, and the university is located, and the medical school is located in University Circle, sort of the cultural hub of the city, kind of like a park-like setting. We're 3 miles east of downtown. Severance Hall is home to the top 5 orchestra in the world, and we also have a big like artsy scene. We have the largest theater district in the United States outside of New York City. Big sports city as well, similar to that of Baltimore, but Cleveland's got a lot to offer. And the hospital systems are also unbelievable. We're an allopathic med school founded in 1843, and we have 3 different MD programs. I represent the university program. That's the most popular program. We also have the largest biomedical research institute in the whole state of Ohio, and one of the largest within the whole Midwest too. And our hospitals, 4 very diverse hospitals that are going to be very give you a strong, diverse patient population that you'll be exposed to. You have university hospitals, which I think is Ohio's 6th largest employer now. You have Cleveland Clinic, which is probably the most well-known brand outside of the Northeast Ohio region. You have the third largest VA hospital in the United States. The third largest VA in the whole US is actually in Cleveland, Ohio. What do you know? And we also have Metro Health Medical Center. So you have Pride LGBT clinic at Metro. You have a Spanish-speaking clinic. A level 1 trauma center manages the Life Flight program. And you're going to be working with patients perhaps who are maybe underinsured or uninsured, very diverse patient population at Metro. I will tell you the economic impact healthcare has on the city of Cleveland. I put it up against it with any med school in the United States. I really would, or any city in the United States for that matter. I'm a little biased. I live here. You know, Baltimore's not too shabby either in terms of, I think, the healthcare hub and the economic impact healthcare has on the city. But Case is also one of the only allopathic med schools in the whole region of Northeast Ohio. And what's nice is you're maybe not in a Boston or a New York or an LA where you have so many students vying for however many spots in the hospitals. Really has a lot to offer. So again, I'll give a shout out to our hospitals. It's probably one of the biggest feedbacks I get from students is like, wow, I can really train where I'd like and see a really diverse patient population in Cleveland. So in terms of programs, I'll start by sharing the MD PhD program. The MD PhD program is the Medical Scientist Training Program, 8 years. And yeah, 8 years, that's right. There are positions that are fully funded by the NIH. International students, I'm sorry, are not eligible due to being a government funded program. And you do receive full tuition, monthly stipend, and all of that. Your first 2 years are in the university program for your MD, then you'll complete your PhD at the conclusion of those first 2 years. And spots depend on the NIH funding, but usually 11 to 14 a year. You want research first, physician second. You don't want to make patient care your primary focus. Good rule of thumb, probably 80% of the experiences in your application should be more research-based. The Cleveland Clinic Learner College of Medicine, or CCLCM, is a 5-year MD. It is a completely tuition-free program. Every student that's offered admission receives a full tuition scholarship. Research is required. Probably want to have an application that's, 50% research and more 50% like patient care. So you will probably have a very similar experience to the university program. Quite honestly, your diploma still says Case Western. The curriculum is all just ran through Cleveland Clinic. And train students more to become physician investigators. You have a 1-year research block. In our Case University program, you have a 4-month research block. You got a 1-year research block in this one. The university program, 170 students in each class. Research not required to apply. The curriculum is 50% small group and 50% case-based learning. This is a screenshot of what the first 2 years look like at Case Western. And how it works is these are your pre-clerkship years, the first 2 years in the classroom. And what will happen is throughout each of the 6 blocks, each block is 11 to 14 weeks, except for block 1. Block 1 is only 5 weeks. And in each of the 6 blocks, you will be divided into case inquiry teams. So they're teams of 8 students and 1 faculty member. And what you will do is you will go through 2 patient cases every week throughout each block. Basic sciences that include basic sciences, but more like clinical component and context to it. And students go through the cases and talk about everything they know and then everything they don't know. And what will happen is students work together to create a set of teaching objectives, which are 10 to 15 different essay questions that they take away from this particular patient care experience. And a set of learning objectives is released every week. It's called IQ. This is the main vehicle for medical education. This is where you're going to spend the bulk of your time outside the classroom, is in your small group team learning. You're in class about 20 to 25 hours per week. IQ is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 hours. Lecture is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 hours. Collaborative practice is every Wednesday afternoon for 2 hours. And then you have anatomy every Tuesday or Thursday. And then you also have experiences in our skills and simulation center called Science and the Art of Medicine, where you'll see standardized patients in our on-site skills and simulation center every Tuesday or Thursday as well. So with that 20-25 hours a week, you have a lot of self-directed learning time and a lot of strong independence. I don't think you'll look at the first 2 years of med school case as the deepest, darkest years of your life. Yes, it's going to be times where it's challenging, but I think you can have a lot of good work-life balance within the curriculum, which is great. Students participate in some joint degree opportunities, also a pathways programs, kind of like a certificate program at the undergrad or the graduate level. And we also have a 4-month research block, just like the clinic has a 1-year research block. CASE has got a 4-month research block. So every student graduates with research experience at the MD level when they apply to residency, which is big. One of the most exciting things happening at the School of Medicine also is anatomy and the hollow anatomy program. You may have heard of hollow anatomy, but check out Google and YouTube it. Essentially, you're going to be given a set of HoloLens glasses, and it's kind of like augmented or virtual reality, but it's augmented reality. And you put on the glasses and I see you, you see me, we see everything in this room, and digital content is inserted into the room as if it's actually there. It is a surreal experience, I will tell you right now. You can put on the glasses and digital content of the human anatomy appears into the room. We have a huge digital anatomy suite where all the anatomy teachings take place, and you can stick your head up inside the virtual cadaver and see how the diaphragm and the lungs move, and it's really incredible. We do have a dissection boot camp that you'll dissect within your first few weeks of med school, and then after the dissection boot camp, we have an applied anatomy elective that's optional for students, but the rest of the anatomy curriculum your first 2 years is taught in a digital format, which is surreal. Very unique to CASE. I know Northwestern and I think Rochester started up a couple of years ago too, but it's been a lot of fun. So we started this in 2019 and it continues to be enhanced. Really good feedback. Application statistics nationally. Everyone wants to know stats. This is last year's stats. National applications, total applications to CWRU, and then you can see the applications to each of our 3 programs, the number of students we interviewed, and the number of matriculants. In the university program, we usually offer about 420 to 430 students every year, and 169 to 170 will accept that offer. It's about 35 to 40% of students per year will accept the offer to Case Western. About 40 to 45 students will accept the offer to the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine. Same with the MD PhD program. So they'll probably accept around probably double the matriculants that you see there for CCLCM and MSTP. We interviewed students from 214 different colleges and universities a year ago, 45 states, 26 countries, and a wide range of MCAT and GPA. Accepted applicants from 138 colleges and universities in 40 different states, 18 countries, and a wide range of students. And this is amongst all of our programs. And that's interviewees, accepted students. This is matriculants, okay? So you can see this is what the matriculant board looks like. It's a very geographically diverse class. Ohio, California seem to always duke it out every year for the top spot. And then also Massachusetts, New York, PA, and Illinois, and Michigan will sometimes make a run at it too. Although Florida is also there at times, and it's been there more recently too. But Florida is also growing. So with a larger population comes more students from that state applying to med school. All right. Of our matriculants, there were 97 different colleges and universities a year ago. Johns Hopkins is well represented. It always is between Johns Hopkins, Case Western undergrad, University of Michigan, who sadly didn't even make the list this year, Ohio State, and Cornell. Those are in Berkeley. Those are always the 5 schools that seem to duke it out for the top spots, most students that matriculate to Case Western. This year, Berkeley and University of Michigan just didn't have it as much as they have in years past. But you can see Case Western undergrad took home the top prize. So they won it this year. We'll see who wins the bowl next year. GPA average is a 3.82 at Case Western. 3.73 is the national average for all students that matriculate to allopathic medical school. Science GPA is a 3.78 Case average. That's 10 points higher than the national average of science GPA of 3.67. You can see the range. Don't let these numbers scare you. 50% of students are below and above that threshold, just like the MCAT. The average at Case is a 5.18, but 50% are below and above that threshold. The national average for students that matriculate to med school this past year was a 5.12, just about a 5.12, 5.11.9 to be exact. So I always recommend if students have below a 5.11 MCAT, I typically recommend that they consider retaking the MCAT. Doesn't mean you have to. I just recommend you consider it. All right. Another good rule of thumb I'll share is when you're going through the application process to med school, I encourage everyone to apply both MD and DO instead of just one or the other. More students as a pre-med apply to MD and DO schools instead of just one or the other. So that's huge. Please, please cast a wide net in this process. My ultimate goal, yes, love it if you all came to Case, but my ultimate goal I feel is to help get you into med school. And the more of a net you can cast, the higher likelihood you are of having multiple offers or an offer of admission to med school. So that's one thing big to keep in mind. Do not let those MCAT numbers scare you. Okay. Again, the range was a 502 to a 527 this past year. You can see that's the average. And then the national average you can see is a 511. So that's all students that were admitted and matriculated to medical school this past year. Okay. So to sum it all up, commitment to medicine. Number one thing any med school is looking for at Case, especially. Do you know what you're getting yourself into when you apply to med school? And also empathy, teamwork. Can you see things from another person's perspective? Teamwork is big. All right. That's huge. Very diverse world we're living in. Always changing world. How you doing with being able to work as a team? And also just well-roundedness. Remember that just for fun slide. Have a life outside of your career. Try to value the journey too. And I know this is a stressful process and uncertain at times, at least I can't imagine. So try to enjoy it, as much as you can. This is the fruits of your labor and your hard work at the same time. Okay. So definitely try to enjoy this and don't be fixated on the final destination and outcome. Try to enjoy the journey too. Sorry. Okay. AMCAS opens 1 year in advance, generally the first week in May. And then you can submit toward the end of May, first week in June. You get our secondary application about 4 weeks, roughly, after you submit AMCAS. And once you submit AMCAS, you'll get the secondary applications about 4 to 5 weeks later from all the schools you selected that you wish you wanted to apply to on AMCAS. So if you select Johns Hopkins and Case Western and Ohio State, you'll get those 3 secondaries. If you select these 8 schools, you'll get those secondary applications. Okay. If you get the secondary application to Case, you can decide which of our programs you wish to apply to. You can apply to Cleveland Clinic Learner College of Medicine and the university program and the MSTP program. You can get accepted to all 3. Apply to 1, get accepted to 1, apply to 2, get accepted to 1, apply to 3, get accepted to 2 of the 3. It's almost like applying to a separate med school in some ways, but you are evaluated separately for each of our programs at Case. We have a podcast that has over 300,000 downloads. My boss, Christian Essman, and Dr. Lena Mehta interview admissions deans across the country to talk med school admissions. What does their school do compared to what our school does? It's very informative. Check it out. Free to download. Plethora of information. Follow us on social media. We have all the recent updates on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check us out. Okay. There's my email. And there's my contact information. Please email me anytime. I can talk to any student up until they submit their application. I love helping students get into med school. It's a big part of what I do. It's a lot of fun. The last piece of information I'll share is you're going through this application process. We have an optional essay in our secondary application. The optional essay reads, tell us anything else you want the admissions committee to know about you. Most students don't fill it out, and I get it. It's an optional essay. You've written enough essays. I get it. However, there are students that don't have anything else to say because they've already shared so much, and I get that too. I will also say that, hey, if you have anything else don't have anything else to share, talk about Case and talk about Cleveland. Why you want to attend Case in Cleveland in the optional essay. Hop online and take a look at the curriculum. What's one thing that stood out to you on the website? Mention me by name. I was on a webinar with Tom McKenzie, assistant director, and wow, I hopped online and I was pretty intrigued. It led me to apply to Case, and I was pretty impressed. I start every admissions interview. I've been interviewing medical students now for about 5 years, and I start every admissions interview with, hey, how'd Case get on your radar? Well, it's kind of funny. I was actually talking to, I was online talking to Tom McKenzie at a webinar here asking questions. And yeah, I hopped, it was really great. I learned a lot. And now here I am interviewing. Oh, wow, I know Tom. Oh, that's great. Like that can set the tone. Good first impressions. That's big. Can set the tone for a really good interview. So all things to keep in mind. And it could be something as simple as I ran into this representative at a pre-health fair, or this advisor recommended this to me because of this individual, whatever. Like, honestly, I find that I'm not only reviewing applications for qualifications, but I'm also reviewing applications for, hey, if we offer an interview and admission to this student, what are the odds they're going to matriculate? So all these things factor in heavily to a admissions decision, and the process can be a game changer. Okay. All right. Well, it's been about 35 minutes, so I don't want to keep anybody much longer. Thank you all so much for being here today. I will actually take some questions now. I said there's a lot of questions coming in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and just answer those right now. So first question is it okay to have some prereq classes planned to be completed during senior year? Yes, absolutely. Even if you don't have a gap year, totally understandable and totally reasonable. You just have to meet the prerequisites before you matriculate to med school, and you'll send us a final transcript. So yeah, students, a lot of college seniors don't have their courses completed yet, and it's in progress, or it will be. Another question, how does financial aid work for the university program? So financial aid works just in a situation where you qualify for need-based financial aid. We no longer have merit-based scholarships. We took those away in 2020. We have a big bucket of money, and however students fill out their financial aid information depending on financial need, that's how they are awarded funds in the form of grants, loans, need-based financial aid in any capacity. All right. Well, thank you all again, very, very much. If anyone does have questions, if anyone just does want to unmute their mic, I'm happy to answer a question via real time here, or if you'd like to drop it in the chat, I'm happy to do that too. But everyone, please stay healthy, stay well, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time to meet with us today. It's been great. So I will I'll hang out here till the last person leaves. Thanks, Zoe, for the clap. But yeah, and if you have any other questions, Zuri, and anything you want to cover as well.
I don't have any specific questions. So, Nora, you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah, fire away, Nora, please.
So I've been like strongly considering getting an MD MPH, but I've recently found out that a lot of MPH programs, I was thinking of doing it during my second gap year, but a lot of MPH programs require that you have like already 2 years of experience or something if you don't want to do it through a dual MD MPH or get your MPH later, like in your fellowship. So in that case, like, is it worth it getting a like an academic master's in public health and then going to med school? Would that count the same, or should I wait to get an MPH later on?
I think it just kind of depends on you, Nora. Like, if you really want to get your MPH and it's something you're very passionate about, it's something you're very interested in, I would get your MPH. I think it's also a little bit of circumstantial. Like, I mean, there's a cost that comes with getting an additional degree. If that's something that you feel strongly about, that investment is going to really be something that you're going to get a lot out of, which is a great transition before med school and pathway to take. Absolutely. I will share most students don't have graduate degrees that enter med school at Case. It's maybe up to 20% of the class at the most. So it's not common. But you know, I think the only way you're going to see a lot of students have master's degrees, perhaps within our student body, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes is they're looking academic redemption. They're going to fulfill basic prerequisite courses or career changers. But we have a lot of students every year that do the MD MPH at Case. That's not a ton of students, handful every year will do that. It is an additional year. It's 25% of tuition if you opt for a 5th year, and you can receive an MD and an NPH at Case. I know that happens every year. But yeah, even getting it during your fellowship. Go ahead.
Like, is it cheaper to do an MPH through the MD MPH program as opposed to get it separately?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, for sure. I will tell you, it's tougher to get a dual degree though at times as a medical student, because you're already getting an MD. You know, that's impressive enough. It's great to add more credentials to your name, but I will tell you that's a big investment too in terms of your time. You might not have a whole lot of time for a lot else if you're getting your master's degree and an MD at the same time.
So I have a question about an MD MPH.
Yeah.
So if you do try to go with a dual degree program such as an MD MPH, are you expected to be like a higher tier applicant compared to just like a single MD degree only applicant?
Like in terms of residency applications?
Or no, just to get into like a dual degree like joint program, is there like a separate application for that? Oh,
there is, yeah. If you want to do if students want to participate in the NPH or any of our dual degrees, I just tell them to email me if you're offered admission. I'll send you the application. You took the MCAT. If you're into the MD program, you'll be fine. Just fill out graduate application in a professional manner, just like you did your med school application, and you'll be in good shape.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Next question comes in. What should we focus on when describing our research experiences? Well, I think you want to describe what you did. You want to describe what you learned from the experience and just your responsibilities. If it was an MD thesis or if it was a master's thesis, if it was a clinical research position you were paid for, I would focus on what you learned and what you took away from the experience. And also, what was your responsibilities? Describe in brief detail the scope of your project. Could you share more about how the CWRU works with Cleveland Clinic? So we are affiliated with Cleveland Clinic in all of our teaching hospitals. There's not anything unique that we do with Cleveland Clinic that maybe we don't do with any other hospital. Students have the opportunity to train wherever they would like at any of our 4 hospitals. Cleveland Clinic is a popular hospital to train in. But we don't have I would say like this big, like certain communication flow chart of anything that happens on a regular basis. Our new building is on Cleveland Clinic's main campus. They did pay for half of the construction of the new building. So we're very closely tied to them. And there's also a program within our School of Medicine, the 5-year MD, that is ran through the Cleveland Clinic. So I would say we have a, we have a connection with them for sure. Oh, great, Zoe. That's great. Oh, got to see the snow. Hit early this year. Oh boy. Yeah. Winter's always fun up here. But you embrace it. You rotate your wardrobe too. If anybody's from the Florida or Texas or California, we promise, like, your educational experience, maybe the difference between snow in Baltimore and snow in Ohio is your education experience won't be interrupted. Perhaps. Isabella, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I just have a question about the 5-year research program that you described.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more about what that entails. Is the only difference that your 5th year is a research-based experience?
Your 4th year, actually. Years 4 out of the 5 is a research-based experience. So you will have a whole year of research instead of 4 consecutive months of research.
Okay, I
Yep.
see.
It's just a longer research block.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. No, thank you. All right. Well, good questions, everybody. I'll plan to hang out here until the last person leaves. So if anyone has a question they didn't want to maybe ask in front of the group, they can hang around, they can stay back. I will also chat my email into the chat box here. And if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Again, I can talk to any student up until they submit their application. So please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. And thank you, Zuri, again.
Yeah, for sure. Deidre, you had I wasn't sure if you had a question for.
No, I didn't
Oh, okay.
answer. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Deidre. Awesome.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna
Thank
stop the
you.
recording now, even if we're hanging back, just so.